Happy almost Thanksgiving, folks, and welcome back to Hashtag AskGSM episode 208 here today for November 22nd, 2017. I am Graham GSM Matthews. Hope you guys are doing well. And as I tweeted that this morning, I almost completely forgot that Thanksgiving was tomorrow. And I always equated to what Elimination Chamber and Fastlane are to WWE. Everyone always looks forward to the Royal Rumble and to Halloween, and rightfully so. They're two of my favorite events of the year as well, so don't get me wrong, they're always great. But as soon as they're over, it's all systems go for Christmas/WrestleMania. Like, anything that happens in between is essentially irrelevant. And I'm here to say, we gotta make Thanksgiving great again. Like, I cannot tell you how many people I have seen on social media, people I know, in recent weeks being like, oh, I gotta get up my Christmas tree. I gotta get my Christmas hat on. I gotta get my Santa hat on. I gotta get all these. Like, if you're starting shopping for Christmas gifts, obviously get well ahead of the game, that's no issue, but in terms of getting decorations up and singing the songs, like, that has been one of my biggest pet peeves for years now, is that me personally, and everyone does it differently, but if you do it differently, then you're wrong, you have to wait until after Thanksgiving to get into Christmas mode. Like, let's appreciate Thanksgiving, and if you don't live in the US, that's fine, like, then you're good, whatever. If you live in even Canada or the UK, because obviously you don't have the same Thanksgiving that we do, of course, then that's fine, because you don't celebrate the anniversary of America. Why would you? So that's completely okay. But I'm talking about the people in the United States that completely just look right over Thanksgiving and just have their sights set on Christmas. Like, hold your horses, dude. Even my own freaking father last week. Now, his birthday was last Friday, okay? And he said that after my birthday gets done, I'm getting a Christmas mode. I said, Dad, no, hold on, Daddy-o. Wait until at least after Thanksgiving. Like, you will not hear me talk about Christmas at all. I mean, I am right now, obviously, but you will not hear me get in the Christmas mood until after Thanksgiving. Like, as soon as 11:59 hits midnight, it's Black Friday, which is cool. I enjoy taking part in the WWE shop deals. I've been doing that for a few years now. I'm all about Christmas. I am the biggest fucking Christmas mark out there, but I got to appreciate Thanksgiving first. So just a bit of a reminder to all you fine folks out there that are already in Christmas mode, blasting your music, putting up your goddamn Christmas trees. Wait a couple days. Wait at least 48 hours. Not even. It's not too much longer, people. But at any rate, guys, it's been quite the crazy, newsworthy week in WWE. Between War Games, Survivor Series, Raw, SmackDown, a lot of shit going down, a lot to talk about here on today's show. But before we get to that, two real quick cheap plugs, and I know I already spent some time talking about Christmas and Thanksgiving and my mini rant on that, but real quick, be sure to check out last week's edition of Hashtag AskGSM, Mr. Marceau, RJ's first full appearance in the show in nearly a year and a half, almost exactly to the day. He did appear for a time in the 200th episode a few months ago, but beyond that, he has not been on for a full episode of Hashtag since May of 2016. We talked all about Survivor Series and War Games, previewed those two shows, and answered all your questions. It was a great episode of Mr. Marceau. Be sure to check that out at your leisure. Thanks again to RJ for coming on the show with his busy schedule, and once again, a happy, very belated birthday to him. And also, if you haven't already, check out my exclusive audio review of NXT TakeOver War Games that went up on Sunday afternoon. It had a Survivor Series. I watched the show with Noah Wade and Jason on Saturday. Had a great time. Noah stayed over. We recorded the review on Sunday, so be sure to check it out. We talked for nearly an hour, just about an hour, about TakeOver, War Games, Survivor Series, and a few other things. It was a great time. I fucking love that show. I'll talk about that soon enough here on Hashtag, but be sure to check out that review at your leisure as well. Not too often we do audio reviews of pay-per-views and live specials here on the channel. I usually wait until Wrestle Rant Radio, but I figured we would have enough to talk about on Wrestle Rant Radio this week between Survivor Series, Raw, and SmackDown, so we can get away with it every once in a while. But at any rate, guys, here we go. Before we get started, if you want to send in your questions, be sure to tweet me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the hashtag AskGSM. 280 characters now, so you can fit more questions in one tweet than ever before. Be sure to find me on Facebook at facebook.com/graham.gsm.matthews. Leave a comment/question on the post I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not on the wall itself. And last but certainly not least, drop your question in the comment section down below on this very video. I'll include it in next week's edition. So let's get started. What you guys came here to hear from Captain Sunshine from YouTube. Their question was the following. Survivor Series was an extremely WCW show. The opener was great, sloppy but great. The mid-card championship matches were entertaining. The best guys in the show had the best match somewhere in the middle, in this case Styles and Lesnar right before the main event. And the marquee gimmick matches that define the show were hot dumpster fires. Are those who don't learn from history doomed to repeat it? That is true. Yes, those who do not learn from history are doomed to repeat it, but it's not like this is every WWE pay-per-view. So I understand what you're talking about. It did have a WCW-like feel there, but it's not like that's the case with every WCW show. Not that I'm implying that you're saying that, but, SummerSlam was the exact opposite. Everything in the middle was pretty much fucking trash. But the main event was great. The Royal Rumble match was pretty good. The overall show was really, really good. So I understand what you mean, like with Money in the Bank. Like, the match that the pay-per-view is known for, is defined by, was a great match. The rest of the show, was just, kind of there this year. But I do agree that Survivor Series, saying it's a WCW show would probably be the best way to sum it up. Because I didn't think it was a great show. I thought it was a very good show. Because how can you go wrong with a great fucking AJ Styles Brock Lesnar match, a very good tag team match with the Bar and the Usos, and then a really, really good opener with the Shield and the Shield and the New Day? You can't really call it a bad show when you have three very good to great matches. So I thought it was a pretty good show. There was nothing bad on the show per se, just some disappointing stuff or some stuff that was just kind of like there, like Miz and Corbin, or even Charlotte and Bliss. I saw some people praising the match. I didn't really care for the match too much. I thought it was boring, to be honest with you. It was a fine match. It wasn't bad, but it just really, really bored me. And it goes back to what I was saying. I don't care what Noah says. 4 hours is way too fucking long for a pay-per-view. Way too long. The main event went 36 minutes, and it wasn't even that good. Last year was different because it was a great match. This match, not so much. We'll talk about that soon enough, but I would say it was a middle-of-the-road show. Elaine of the Y, also from YouTube, is Hideo Itami going to be aligned with Enzo Amore? At this point, the babyface/heel alignment in 205 Live is defined by whether or not you want to hang with Enzo. God, I hope not. You are right, though. It seems like we have babyfaces and heels, and if you're against Enzo, then you have your own little stable with Alexander and Swan and Ali and Tozawa, and then if you're a heel, you're aligned with Enzo. So I don't think Gallagher and Kendrick are aligned with Enzo, which is good. They should stay as far away from him as possible. But I hope not. I mean, here's the thing with Hideo Itami, by the way. I tweeted this out last night after I saw all this hate in the YouTube comments that WWE posted of the vignette, promoting Itami's soon arrival in 205 Live on Twitter. People were like, oh, yay, like sarcastically. Here's the thing with Itami. The guy is fucking great. I completely agree that he should not be pigeonholed to 205 Live because, yes, the show is essentially the kiss of death. Austin Aries was rumored to have left because of it. He said that wasn't the case in the Jericho podcast a few weeks ago, but he went there and died a death, and he left the company. Maybe if he went to the heavyweights, that would not have been the case. Who knows? Neville was reportedly very unhappy with the Cruiserweight division because he wanted to be higher up in the card. He's been unhappy, reportedly, since January. So, Itami, if the show will... And that was the guy that was fucking on top of the division for almost 10, 11 months. For a really, really long time. He was the champion for a fucking long-ass time. And if he wasn't happy, who's to say that Itami will be? Because the show means nothing. The show means pretty much nothing. It's not bad, but it's really just an extra hour of TV for me to review. I don't look forward to 205 Live. They got a couple good matches here and there every once in a while. With like Tozawa and Gulak last night. They had a street fight. It was a really good match. With Itami, it's now or never. The guy, if he was put in the main roster, he would be swallowed up whole. I have no doubt about that. And in NXT, yes, NXT is awesome, but they have not found a spot for this guy in years. And obviously the injuries were unfortunate, and he got hurt a second time, and he turned heel, which was cool, but he has not been on the show since Brooklyn 3, and that was 3 months ago. He's not going anywhere fast in NXT. He's not going to win the championship there. So he might as well benefit from a change of scenery. Now, will he feel like everyone else in the matter of weeks? There's a good chance of that. I'm not denying that at all. What I'm saying is that this might be his last resort, is going to 205 Live. And hey, if it doesn't work out, he can walk out too. He can quit, go back to Japan, whatever. But let's not shit on it before it actually happens. Because yes, it might be awful. I'm not saying that it won't be. But it's better than keeping him on NXT and not even putting him on fucking TV. It's like, what a waste. So I'm looking forward to seeing how it plays out. I'm not getting my hopes up, obviously, after what happened to Neville and Aries and a few others. Like Kalisto, Joined the division, no one could give two shits. He won the belt, cool moment, but it's been all downhill for him since then. So I don't think a Tommy's going to make a lick of a difference, but at least he gets fresh blood on the show. Like a Rockstar Spud, I don't see him doing anything really beyond the Cruiserweight division, so that's a good spot for him. A Tommy is better than that division, but I think that he would go nowhere. If guys like Rude and Nakamura are struggling to get TV time on fucking SmackDown, what makes you think that a Tommy's going to be a big deal on either brand right now? He won't be. So he might as well just go to 205 Live. Next question, also from Elena the Y. Does Ruby Riot's stable, Liv Morgan and Sarah Logan, exist just to be SmackDown's version of Paige's stable with Mandy and Sonya? Also, are Peyton Royce and Billie Kay staying in NXT to win the women's title? Ember is champion, but babyface title reigns in NXT do not seem to traditionally last long. I'm going to have to disagree with you on that last point there. I mean, Paige was champion for a long time, and she was a babyface. We had Bayley as women's champion for a long time in NXT, and she was a babyface. Asuka, I know she was heel towards the end, but she was champion for a long time, and for the better part of that reign, she was a babyface. So I don't know about babyface title reigns not lasting long in NXT. Maybe with the top title, but certainly not with the women's championship. So I think Ember could be champion for a while. I did see someone say that they should have had Peyton win it on Saturday, and then Ember could win it either at the next takeover or the takeover after that. She could be in chase mode for a little longer. Yeah, but I feel like it would have been way too late. Like, people by that point, if they didn't put the championship on Ember again, for it wasn't third time's the charm on Saturday, people would have stopped caring. And for some other people, they already stopped caring. I know RJ said he was a little pissed that he saw that Ember won. He won't be marking out if she beat Peyton for the belt in a few months. He would probably be even more pissed than he is right now, because by that point, she might be damaged goods. And they were in her hometown, her home state at least, at TakeOver War Games. You might as well put the belt on her there. I thought it was a cool moment. But anyway, to get to the rest of your question, with Peyton and Billie Kay, I guess they are staying in NXT for a little while. I don't know if they'll win the championship. It'd be cool if they did. Peyton got probably a bigger reaction than anyone on Saturday. Bigger than Kairi Sane, Nikki Cross, or Ember Moon, who was fucking from Texas. Peyton got a really big pop, which I was not expecting in that TakeOver War Games show. Otherwise, I don't know why they would still be down there. Billie Kay and Peyton Royce have been in NXT almost longer than anyone. And no one deserves a main roster call-up more than them, but that's not how call-ups work. It's not who deserves it the most. Bayley was down there for like 3 years. Sami Zayn was down there for almost 3-4 years. You know, Nia Jax got called up after 9 months. Who else recently? I know Sonya Deville and Mandy Rose have been under contract for a few years, but they only recently... Mandy Rose hasn't really been on TV at all. And with Sonya Deville, she only really recently debuted a few months ago. With the women on the SmackDown side, Ruby Riott only debuted like 3 months ago. 3 or 4 months ago, earlier this year in NXT. So there's really no rhyme or reason as to why people get called up when they do. It's only because they want to fill a spot. And it's like with the old Santino thing. He didn't get called up 10 years ago because he was ready for a call-up or he was super, super good. No. They needed someone to fill that Italian stereotype, even though he's not actually Italian, he's Canadian. But anyway, that's why he got called up. With the Paige stable, I like that stable. I like that a lot. And I talked about this on Twitter, that Paige, Mandy, and Sonya, if they want to play off this, they have history from Tough Enough from a few years ago. And I know Sonya was Daria Baronato, or whatever her last name is. Now it's Sonya Deville. But they can play off that if they want to. I like the chemistry with those 3 women. The SmackDown stable, I like Ruby Riott a lot. I like Sarah Logan. We haven't really seen nearly enough of her in NXT. And Liv Morgan, I'm just not a fan of. I just do not think she's good at all. I just don't see the chemistry there. And it's worse because all 3 of those women are natural baby faces. Whereas with Mandy Rose and Sonya, they're natural heels. So that works that way. And Paige works better as a heel anyway. With Riott, Logan, and Morgan, we'll see where it goes. It's good to have fresh blood on SmackDown. But yeah, doing the exact same thing with the women that we saw on Raw the night before, it felt like SmackDown had no other idea, so they just copied Raw. So I'm not sure where they're going with that. I guess we'll see. But yeah, I was surprised. They really thought we would get Peyton Royce and Billie Kay on SmackDown this week. We did not. And having them be put in any stable doesn't make any sense. Like maybe with Emma a few months ago, but they didn't do that and Emma's gone now. but they can be called up on their own. They're a great enough tag team. They don't need a leader. They're already established. So again, the Riot stable just threw me off because I thought the Mandy Rose, Sonya Deville thing was great with Paige, and it is great. The SmackDown stable, I'm not too sure, but again, time will tell. Next question from Emmanuel A. on YouTube. His question is, so I hear you're reviewing a WCW pay-per-view next week. Is it going to be Halloween Havoc 1997? Because that has the best and worst content that WCW has to offer. Rey Mysterio and Eddie Guerrero have the definitive cruiserweight match, possibly the greatest of all time by two of the greatest ever do cruiserweight matches. And then you have Roddy Piper versus Hulk Hogan in the main event in a non-title steel cage match. And by steel cage, think Hell in a Cell, which was just 3 weeks earlier and was better in every way. The closing moments of the show have to be seen to be believed. Maybe, I'm still not decided on what show I'll be watching for Wrestle Rant on Tuesday. I'm still struggling between starting from this, from the very beginning and going in order of every WCW pay-per-view ever, or just going to shows that I want to watch. But I feel like it wouldn't make sense if I don't have the context behind the shows. And with WWE, it was okay because I kind of knew a bit more about WWE. With WCW, it's a bit harder because I don't know the context behind most pay-per-views and the build-up and whatever. So it might be a lot easier if I start from scratch. We'll see. If there's any pay-per-view review, it might as well be Halloween Havoc 97 or Bash of the Beach 1996 or Starrcade 97 or one of those type of shows. But it probably will be starting from the beginning, but we'll have to see on Tuesday. His second question, is it strange that I thought The Miz versus Baron Corbin at Survivor Series was better than The Miz versus Sami Zayn from last year's Survivor Series? I remember being particularly excited for Miz and Zayn last year, only to find it dull, and even trying to rewatch it, the match still comes off as okay at best. Yet Miz versus Corbin, a match that I had little excitement for, actually felt faster paced and felt more unique as a heel versus heel match that didn't force either guy to play a default babyface role. I don't know if that's just because of expectations though, and if I'm just praising an okay match because it reminded me of a related okay match that I was expecting more out of. Which one did you think was the better match? I very much agree. The Miz and Zayn match was kind of forgettable. I know Zayn was from Canada, which is where the pay-per-view took place last year in Survivor Series, but the match itself I don't know, it was pretty mediocre. I remember nothing about the match, and I literally just watched the back like a week or two ago for Wrestle Rant, so it wasn't a bad match, but it was very forgettable. And I texted RJ about this too in regards to Miz and Corbin a few days ago, that it was a forgettable match. Like, we won't remember it a week from now. Like, I'm not debating that, but I did think it was a bit better of a match. The crowd had no reason to care because it was heel versus heel. But I did like how Baron took out the Miztourage. And then I loved the finish. I thought the finish was really cool. Did not get enough people talking about it, but like Miz went for the yes kicks. And then he was doing the Daniel Bryan drop kicks in the corner. He did one. He did another one. He went for a third one, and Baron Corbin caught him in the end of days, hit him for the 1, 2, 3, and it was over. I thought that was a really cool finish. The match was a bit better. It wasn't a great match by any stretch. If I had to compare the two, based off my memory, again, I can't really recall Miz and Zayn at all. And the finish sucked, too. The finish was fucking terrible with Miz, and they're doing a screw job. Yeah, they're doing like a knockoff of the Montreal screw job where the bell rings, but it was Maurice who rang the bell to make Zayn think that he won. It was fucking stupid as all shit. I really, really did not like that finish. The finish this year was a lot better. So again, if I had to compare the two, they're both okay matches, like you said, but if I had to say which one was better, honestly, maybe Miz and Corbin. That's what I would go with anyway. His third question, did the men's 5 versus 5 Survivor Series match feel forgettable to you? I actually had trouble going to sleep that night because it bothered me how much I didn't remember about that match, despite just seeing it a few hours ago. I had to look up the results on Wikipedia to remember that Finn Balor got eliminated by an RKO, or that John Cena got eliminated by an angle slam before that. Yeah, I don't know if it was so much forgettable. Like, I liked the beginning where we got like the dream match combinations with Nakamura and Balor and Joe and Orton, and Cena and Angle again. We got Rude and Triple H. We got a lot of cool, face-offs early on. The second half just fell off a fucking cliff. I thought it wasn't, again, bad. It wasn't bad by any means, but it was a bit underwhelming. I don't know if it was disappointing because everyone had their hopes up high for that match. And we got the Owens and Zayn interference, which was expected and welcomed, but beyond that, the match really did nothing for me. The fact that it came down to Triple H, I mean, Braun Strowman was in there, thank God, but it came down to fucking Triple H, John Cena, Randy Orton, and Kurt Angle, and Shane McMahon. What is this, fucking 2002? Like, I didn't understand that at all. I mean, I know why they did it, but I just wasn't a fan of it. I thought they really could have people benefit like Joe or Balor or Rude or Nakamura, God forbid, but it's always got to come down to the same 4 or 5 fucking people. And I like Angle, but God damn it, how many times have we seen people like Orton and Cena and Shane in this spot? It's like, God fucking damn it, let's Triple H. So we got to move on from this. But yeah, it did feel a bit forgettable. I don't know if I'll go so far as to say I forgot the eliminations. I did remember that Balor, because I thought the RKO on Balor was cool. And the Cena Angle thing, it wasn't all that forgettable because I liked them going at it. So I wouldn't go that far that the eliminations were all that forgettable, but I will say that the match did not meet the mark that it should have, considering the star power that was involved. Andre G from Facebook, do you think Dream and Black should be a tag team? I saw some people proposing that after TakeOver War Games. That would be really cool. If nothing else, we have to have the feud continue. I don't know if it will. But I think Dream and Black should really have another match or join up. I think Black, all roads lead to Black becoming NXT champion, probably at the New Orleans show next year over WrestleMania weekend. So I don't know how long a tag team would last, but their tag team division is kind of stacked anyway. Like, they have Sanity. Authors of Pain, I imagine, are going up pretty soon anyway. But we have Sanity. We have the Street Profits, Sabatelli and Ross, or Moss, or whatever, Riddick Moss. Those guys, we have Heavy Machinery, TM61 should be back any day now. So they have a pretty healthy tag team division. We have Undisputed Era, obviously. They don't really need Dream and Black. I think they should just leave it to the guys that are already involved in the division, and just have Dream and Black continue their feud. But I wouldn't be opposed to it. It would be entertaining. It would be a lot like, as I've seen people say, a Rock and Sock like connection type deal, where it's two polar opposites. But that match was fucking great. That was a really, really good match. Probably my favorite match of the weekend. And I loved War Games. I really like Styles and Lesnar. But the match of the night for me, just given the build and how the match played out in the aftermath with Black saying, "Enjoy Infamy, Velveteen Dream," and all that other stuff, I gotta go with Black and Dream as my favorite and the best match of the weekend. I thought it was really, really good. But yeah, I would not be opposed to a tag team. I don't see it happening, but I would not be opposed to it. His second question, were you as surprised as I was about Andrade Almas' championship win? Yeah, I was. I was very much shocked, but in a good way. And I don't hate Drew. I think Drew's a good champion. He's a fine choice to be the leading babyface of the brand. But, I mean, it wasn't like, oh my God, Drew's hurt, we got to change the title. Like, he was already scheduled to win the title. So I don't want people to think that, oh my God, Drew got hurt halfway during the match, they changed the finish. The finish went exactly as planned. And officials must have known that Andrade and Zelina Vega, they're a hot act right now. They have great chemistry. They work really, really well together. Zelina Vega is hot as hell. She can talk. She can even go in the ring. Rosita, the former Rosita from TNA, I know she can go, but as a manager, she's great. And Andrade can't speak for shit. He has he can't speak English very well, so having her as his mouthpiece is awesome. It works. It's just a pairing that works. And I think putting the belt on him was a great idea too. And I haven't even mentioned yet that the guy's a great wrestler. And he always has been a great wrestler, but he struggled to find his footing for a very long time until they started to turn his career around. Earlier this year, over the summer, and then he beat Johnny Gargano in Brooklyn, which was, again, an amazing match. And that match with McIntyre was also really, really good. And I thought for sure, after Zelina Vega interfered in the match and Andrade hit him with his finisher halfway during the match, I really thought McIntyre, I really thought because McIntyre kicked out of that move, that it was over. That McIntyre was going to win, he was going to hit his finisher, and it was over. But no, almost battled back. He hit McIntyre with his finisher for a second time, off the top rope that time, I think, or a variation of it or something. And that was it. And I really thought that was cool. I thought that was a great moment. He deserves it. I was surprised, pleasantly surprised, to say the least. Mark asked from Facebook, what were your favorite 3 matches from NXT TakeOver War Games and Survivor Series? In order, Black and Dream from TakeOver, Aleister Black and Velveteen Dream, Lesnar and Styles, I really, really enjoyed, in War Games. I also really liked, as an honorable mention, Shield and New Day, like I said earlier, but those, if I had to choose 3 matches that I enjoyed the most, that I liked the most, it'd probably be Brock Lesnar and AJ Styles, Velveteen Dream, and Aleister Black, and the War Games main event. His second question: would the War Games belt make your top 10 matches of the year so far? Top 10? I'm not sure. Like, I would have to really go back and look. Like, I think Dunn and Bate is up there from TakeOver Chicago. Dream and Black I would put in the top 10 for sure, if not number 1. That's a no-brainer. War Games? Probably. You know, it might be towards the bottom of the top 10, but I think it would be up there. That was a really, really good main event. We had no idea what to expect. We had really no idea what to expect from that match, because we have not seen War Games in close to 20 years, and for people like me that have never even watched the War Games match, and they changed the rules, they took the cage off the top, people were complaining about that. In the end, it didn't even matter, because it was a great fucking match. I really, really enjoyed that bloodbath. That was awesome. So again, would it make top 10? For right now, I'm going to say yes, and if it's not, it's up there. That was a really good match, and a great main event for TakeOver on Saturday. His next question: could you see one of the New Day members holding a singles title while chasing the tag titles as well? I'm actually really surprised they haven't done this yet. That for the 3 years that New Day has been together, it might be the 3-year anniversary today, or one of these days. But anyway, I'm actually really surprised that in the 3 years New Day has been a thing, that they've only been chasing the tag titles. I thought for sure that 2 guys would break off and chase the tag titles, and they wouldn't split up the stable, but at the same time that Kofi and Big E are going for tag titles, that Xavier Woods would chase like the US title or the IC title. It doesn't have to be Xavier, but you know what I mean. I'm surprised it hasn't happened yet. By this point, I don't think it will, because I think they're solely focused on tag team wrestling, but I wouldn't put it past them. I think like an Xavier Woods or a Big E or a Kofi Kingston. I mean, I'd rather have Big E or Kofi, because we've seen Kofi as fucking as IC and US champion so many times before. I would much rather have Xavier or Big E. And Big E's been a former IC champion as well, but I would much prefer those guys in the mid-card than Kofi again. Chasing, who's the US champion? Baron Corbin. It looks like we're getting Baron Corbin and Bobby Roode, which is cool for the belt going forward. Probably a Clash of Champions. But Baron Corbin and Big E, that might be a good feud. So I would not be opposed to that after Clash of Champions, assuming Roode does not win the belt. Next question of his: do you think a Triple H versus Kurt Angle match will happen? And would you be interested in seeing it, or do you prefer some multi-person bout involving them? Well, we got the multi-person bout on Sunday. And that's exactly why. Because on a multi-man match, and I love Angle, but those guys are protected. Because when it came down to just them, it was very slow. And again, that's no shocker. Both guys are close to their 50s. So I'm not expecting an instant classic from Triple H and Kurt Angle, but I have no interest in seeing a one-on-one match. I would prefer that over Triple H and Braun. I don't think that would be a good match at all. Angle and H might have a better build-up and maybe a slightly better match. I don't know. I would much rather see Triple H face like a guy like Kevin Owens or someone like that, or even like Shane. I know that might not be I don't want to see Angle and Triple H, but Angle and Shane, or Triple H and Shane, yeah, definitely. But there's history there, and Triple H and Angle have history too. But Shane and H in real life have reportedly bad blood. Shane and his brother-in-law, and they mentioned this before. Even the commentators brought it up on Sunday. So that would be a good Mania match, in my opinion. But I have no interest in seeing like a 4-way or something. I think we got the multi-person match out of the way on Sunday. H and Angle, it will happen. I have very little doubt about that, whether it be at the Rumble or at WrestleMania. I think it's going to happen at WrestleMania, but maybe they do it at the Rumble, but I don't know. I don't have any interest. I mean, I think it is going to happen at WrestleMania, but I just do not have much interest in seeing that. Deshaun K from Facebook, his question as well was, now that Roman Reigns is the Intercontinental Champion, do you think we'll see a champion versus champion winner-take-all match with Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania? That is, of course, unless he loses the belt before then. No. I think Roman's going to lose the belt before, and then I do think we're getting Roman and Brock at Mania doing a winner-take-all match is a complete waste of the IC title. Now, I know they haven't done that. So I know they did it with Kane and Triple H, like in 2002. But at WrestleMania, we've not seen that since WrestleMania 6 with Warrior and Hogan. And that was a different deal because Warrior was super popular, Hogan was super popular, and it was a big deal. It had never been done before. This time, like, Reigns' last U.S. title run was very forgettable. It was a cool moment that he won the belt on Raw this week and he became a Grand Slam champion in the process. I don't know, though. I'm not a big fan of doing the match at all, let alone a winner-take-all match. I think the IC title match should be a separate match. They should have an IC title match on the card, not involved in the main event. Like, again, it would be cool, but I think it's a waste for Reigns and Lesnar, because then in that case, it makes it even more obvious that Brock's not winning, because he's not going to fucking take the IC title too. He already holds the Universal Championship hostage. So I don't really want to see that, and I don't know. I just don't want to see Reigns and Lesnar at all. Not again. I mean, I know they worked well together at WrestleMania 31, but it's so fucking obvious that Roman is winning that match. It's so obvious. And that's been obvious since like the month of March earlier this year. But no. Do I think it could happen? Maybe. A winner-take-all match? I do not want to see it happen. I don't think it will. His next question, do you see NXT War Games as a staple for Survivor Series weekend in the future and beyond? You know what? Honestly, I hope it's not. Not because I didn't like the match. I thought the match was great. But this is where we run into the issue of having a match on the same weekend every year. Now, the Survivor Series elimination matches are the only exception because that's been a tradition for fucking like 30 years now. But having Hell in a Cell in the same fucking pay-per-view in the same month every single year. Money in the Bank, again, a bit different because that was already the case before they made the pay-per-view. It was at WrestleMania every year, but Hell in a Cell, TLC. Like, bring these matches back when they mean something. The War Games match wasn't like, oh, let's throw 3 random teams in the mix and have a War Games match. No. Like, that match made sense and it worked because all 3 stables, all 3 trios had been feuding since Brooklyn 3. So it made perfect sense. And it was a great fucking match as a result because they told a great story. It's not like they're throwing 2 random people like, oh shit, like this week it's Gargano and Ciampa, or no, that's not a good example because that would be actually pretty cool. This week for the NXT title, Gargano and Drew McIntyre. Let's throw them in a War Games match. Like, why? You know, that's dumb. They brought it back for Survivor Series. That would be pretty cool. Again, the issue with that is that I know NXT will do well with whatever they're given. The main roster, not so much. They don't really have a strong track record of, meeting my expectations or doing well by certain match types and stuff like that. So, no, I hope the match is brought back. I want to see another War Games match, but I don't want to see, I really do not want to see it brought back at the same show every year. Because NXT doesn't have that. They don't have a match where they do every year at the same time every single year. I just think it's a waste. And it just diminishes the match. So I hope it's brought back in the future, but only when necessary. And his third question was, do you see the Velveteen Dream as a mid-card talent or a main event talent? That's a good one, because I think the character's really, really good. Would the main roster push him as the main event talent? Definitely not. I have no doubt about that. He could be a really solid mid-carder, though. The guy is great. Patrick Clark has come a long way. We already knew he was a good worker. He has not been in the business for that long. But the character was really what got him over. And he was, again, super over, even more so than Black on Saturday at TakeOver War Games. So, and that match was awesome. Like I said, one of the best matches all year, in my opinion. But, yeah. So I think he could be a mid-card talent on the main roster. In NXT, could he win the NXT Championship? I don't see that happening anytime soon, but it's possible. Like, maybe we get Black and Dream down the road for the title, like at this time next year. That would be pretty cool, but by that point, I would hope Black is already in the main roster because the guy's fucking great. Anyway, but yeah, I think Dream could be an upper mid-card talent at worst. Main event talent, I don't see it, but the guy is really, really good, though. I will say that. Jeremy B. from Facebook, thoughts on all the call-ups of Mandy, Sonya, Ruby, Liv, and Sarah Logan. So like I said earlier, Mandy and Sonya, well, people took exception to, oh, it wasn't the iconic duo. Like, fucking listen, dude. It makes sense. Putting the iconic duo with Paige would not have made any sense at all. Those girls do not need a leader. I said that earlier. They do not need a leader. Should they be called up? Absolutely. They should be on SmackDown right now. Ruby, Liv, and Logan. I like Ruby Riott a lot. She is really, really good. Sarah Logan's also good, but we know nothing about her. She's made only a handful of appearances on NXT TV. She got eliminated, I think, from the first round of the Mae Young Classic. And again, she's good, and from the only things that I've seen of her, she's a babyface. Like, she talks like a babyface. As a heel, maybe as crazy Mary Dobson, the character that she was doing on the indie scene, she'd be a good heel, but she's not a heel right now, and they took away her mask. So she's a babyface. So Liv, again, a babyface too. And maybe that would be funny if they put her with Enzo just to kind of spite the two, even though they broke up a couple months ago. They would be a good on-air duo. But at any rate, with Liv, she sucks. I mean, Liv is awful. I don't think she should have ever escaped developmental. Ruby was going to be up at some point anyway. I think it might be too soon because she only joined NXT a couple months ago. But again, and she's a natural babyface too. I told RJ this, but she to me is like the new Becky Lynch. I was going to say of NXT, but she's gone from NXT now, apparently. So again, with Mandy and Sonya, were they in-ring ready? Probably not. I heard good things about Mandy. She's got the character down pat. She looks like she's so fucking hot, but she looks like a total bitch. So she could be a great heel on the main roster. Sonya, she's gotten a lot better. Was she ready? Probably not, but she will be protected with Paige. I could say the same thing about Liv. Sonya has at least improved. Liv Morgan has not improved at all. She is fucking terrible. And the character, the yo, like that shit is terrible. That is awful. And that's just me. Oh, she's hot. Yeah, Mandy's hot too. I get that, but like, good God. Anything, I don't know. I'm just not a Liv Morgan fan. I like Mandy Rose a lot more than I like Liv Morgan. So putting Liv, Logan, and Ruby together, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of that, but again, bottom line, if nothing else, it gets fresh blood on SmackDown with the women because it's been all about Charlotte and Natalya, all about Naomi and Natalya, and the fucking faction wars and the multi-women matches. It seems like we're going to go back to doing that again. Ugh, I'm not a fan of that at all. But, yeah, no, so I guess we'll see where they go with it, but I'm glad they're on SmackDown. I'm glad we have new blood on SmackDown. Maybe the wrong people to call up right now. We'll see where it goes. Mandy and Sonya, though, I'm sold on that. I like that with Paige. She's established. It's gonna help them. It's gonna help get them over. They're natural heels anyway, and we have a women's heel faction on Raw, which we rarely see. And the Welcoming Committee does not count. We got that for a cup of coffee on SmackDown earlier this year. They had no chemistry. Mandy, Sonya, and Paige, I do see the chemistry. Ruby, Liv, and Logan, I don't, but maybe we will in time. At Rusty Rages from Twitter, do you think the crowd will turn on Paige in the coming weeks? I mean, she's a heel. She got a great pop on Monday, but it looks like she's going to be a heel going forward, so, I mean, I guess they can continue to cheer if they want, but if they turn on her, I don't think it'd be a bad thing because she's supposed to be a heel, presumably, so that might be for the better. Will Andrade be NXT champion until the next takeover? Well, I would hope so. I don't think we've ever had an NXT championship change hands on an episode of TV. Like, I know it changed hands at a house show where I was there when Joe beat Balor about a year and a half ago in April of 2016 in Lowell, but I don't think the belt has ever changed hands on TV. And there's a reason for that. It's not the fucking main roster where they change the title on a whim. They do proper planning behind it, and it makes sense, and I've never been disappointed by an NXT championship win. Ever. Like, even when Bo Dallas won it, at least they turned him heel afterward, like 4 years ago. So I think he will be. I mean, maybe at least until the very next takeover. I don't think that would take the title off of him until then. That would be kind of dumb, to be honest with you, if they just had someone win it on an upcoming episode of TV, of NXT TV. But, I mean, I guess he could lose it at the next takeover, but I would keep the belt on him until at least WrestleMania weekend at this point. His next question, what are your top 5 stables? I mean, this is going to be a really bad list. Like, Shield and Nexus are up there, because Shield and Nexus have been probably the 2 biggest stables since I became a fan. New Day I love. I would probably put New Day on that list. It's a bad list because they've only been a fan for 10 years, for just about 10 years. 9.5, I guess, if you want to be exact. I'm a little over 9.5. But there have not been a lot of great stables in the time that I've been a fan. Like, I'd put Evolution on that list. DX, NWO. So, I put New Day down here. Undisputed Era, they just debuted, so it's kind of hard to say they're one of my favorites. But I also liked Fortune and TNA for as long as they were around for a few years, for about a year and a half or so. in like 2010, 2011 in TNA. So I'd put them up there, but Nexus and Shield are probably my top two. Shield being number one. Nexus was always my number one, but I think Shield surpassed that. I was a big fan of Nexus when they first showed up in 2010, and they quickly got buried, but that's another topic for another day. And his last question here. Are you surprised that they didn't have Jason Jordan interfere in the Survivor Series main event, and in doing so, going heel? Yeah, I was a little bit surprised, but we already had Owens and Zayn interfere, so it wasn't really necessary to have Jordan. He did cut the promo beforehand, but here's the thing, though. I like what they're doing now. Presumably, I might be wrong here, but other people picked up on it as well, that with all the segments that we saw him in on Raw this week, he came across like such a bitch, a whiny little bitch, and that had to have been intentional. If not, this company's lost their marbles, but it seems like, and he called Angle dad, he called Kurt Angle dad, which he hasn't really done all that much in recent months. So it does look like he's going to be turning heel sooner rather than later. Maybe he reveals that he wasn't Angle's son from the get-go, or that he's just manipulating Kurt Angle. I don't really know, but it does look like what they're doing. They're planting the seeds and doing a subtle build, a slow burn heel turn, which I love, which is a lot better than just like, oh, he's a heel now by interfering in the main event and costing Raw the win. That would have been a bit too abrupt. It would have been fine, but I think the approach they're taking instead, I assume, again, I might be wrong, but if they're not, then this company has lost their marbles, like I said. But I think the approach they're taking now is a lot better. At Hardy DX fan, was WrestleMania 24 one of the better WrestleManias going by match quality? In the past 10 years, I would say so. I really like WrestleMania 24. Now, I became a fan, like, literally 2 weeks officially after the show ended. In April of 2014. The show was in late March of 20... Or not, did I say 2014? I meant 2008. It was April 14th was when I became a fan, which is why I said 14. That was on my mind. Anyway, yeah, WrestleMania 24 I thought was a great show. Really, really good show. Underrated opener with JBL and Finlay. The three-way with Orton, Cena, and H wasn't great, but it wasn't bad either. I thought it was a good match. It wasn't like anything too memorable, though. Edge and Taker was a great main event. Obviously, we had Shawn and Rick with the story they told was great. Money in the Bank I loved. I thought that might be one of, if not my favorite Money in the Bank ladder match ever. I really loved that match. The women's match, the Lumberjill tag team match sucked. I don't know what else was on that show. Big Show and Floyd Money Mayweather was also a really good match. So, of all time, is it one of the better WrestleManias from an in-ring standpoint? I'd have to really go back. In recent memory, I would say so. 25 disappointed me. 26 had some good matches. At least at the top of the card. So maybe 26 too. That's an underrated WrestleMania in my opinion. 27, absolutely not. 28, I really like 28, but from an in-ring standpoint, there weren't a lot of like great matches, except for maybe the top of the card. 29, absolutely not. 30, wasn't many matches. There weren't really many matches. I mean, the main event, like the stuff with Bryan and the Authority was awesome, but the whole show from an in-ring standpoint wasn't amazing. 31, I thought was really, really good. Had a lot of great matches. So maybe 31. 32, absolutely not. And 33 would be up there too in terms of match quality. But yeah, 24 might be one of the better ones because I thought that was a really solid show from start to finish. His next question, who is WWE? Who does WWE have to thank for the success of talking smack between The Miz and Daniel Bryan? Good question. I mean, both guys are to thank because they really elevated that show every time they were on. I mean, Bryan was obviously more on than Miz because Bryan was a host on the show for a long time. But between the two, and obviously Miz's tirade from right after SummerSlam was what really kicked off. Like, that was what made me start watching Talking Smack. Was the Miz's rant promo when he went off on Bryan, one of the most talked about promos of 2016. That was amazing. And both guys were involved in that. But I would have to say The Miz. I mean, Bryan was already on the show before that. He was good, but he wasn't like must-see. After that promo, Daniel Bryan was my favorite part about Talking Smack because it was so fucking evident the guy could not give two shits. He doesn't want to be there. And I know people say, oh, he's just having fun. No, the guy doesn't fucking care. The guy would mention, like, TNA. He would mention this. He would reference fucking Paige's leaked video on right after 4th of July. And coincidentally enough, the show was canceled like a week or two later, back in July of this year. The guy didn't give a fuck. Talking Smack, Daniel Bryan, was amazing. Like, that one episode with him and Owens and Renee Young, and as sweet beats, was fucking hilarious. But what really, Daniel Bryan should really be attributed to the success. The success of the show should be attributed to him a lot, but Miz was what really kicked that off with that promo. So I would say both. Maybe give a little bit of the edge to Miz, but beyond that, Daniel Bryan really carried that show. He just did not give a fuck, and it was so great to watch. His next question: do you believe Vince deserved the bad reputation he got after the WWE 365 Kevin Owens special aired on the WWE Network? So I saw the special. I talked about it in a review that's going to be going up on Sunday here on the channel, so stay tuned for that. I talked about this with RJ over text yesterday, and we both agreed that I was surprised that Vince hated the WrestleMania match with Owens and Jericho, yet he liked the SummerSlam match with Owens and Styles. Now, that was a good match too, with Shane as a special guest ref, but the WrestleMania match was way better. Owens and Styles had some good matches, maybe one great match, but a lot of those matches weren't as good as they should have been. The WrestleMania match with Jericho and Owens I thought was really, really good. I really enjoyed it. Maybe it wasn't amazing, but I thought it was damn good. Better than the Styles-Owens match. So, we'll never know how Vince's brain works. I didn't see a lot of shit for Vince after that. People were saying the same thing that I was just talking about, but I don't know if Vince got a bad reputation. The guy's had a bad reputation for years. The whole out of touch shit goes back years, dating back to the Stone Cold podcast back in 2014 when he said, Cesaro's not a world champion because the guy doesn't, can't speak English, or he's too Swiss, or something like that, So Vince has had that reputation for years, but yeah, the Owens 365 thing was weird, but I don't know. I'll give you more thoughts on it on Sunday. I get in my review of the special, which overall was really, really good. Definitely check it out when you get a chance. It's about 45 minutes long, but it's worth the watch. And final two questions from @Scarlet1. There's a couple questions. I'm sorry. I have more questions on the third page, but yeah, 2 or 3 from Scarlet1, and then one more from RJ himself. Speaking of whom, from @Scarlet1 though, first question, not quite wrestling related, but have you heard about John Lasseter, Pixar founder, taking a leave of absence from Disney after being accused of sexual harassment? No, I didn't hear about that. Everyone under the sun right now is getting accused of sexual harassment, which it's good that people are getting called out on their shit. It shouldn't be tucked away or forgotten about or ignored for any longer. But that is a shame, though. I love Pixar. I think you might have brought up Pixar before, here on the show. I enjoy Pixar. They have yet to have a really bad movie. I guess you could argue Cars 2 or Cars 3, but they weren't terrible. They weren't as, all the other movies are just way too fucking good. That's the issue. Anyway, but I did not hear about that. That is disappointing to hear, though. It seems like everyone's getting accused. As long as Tom Hanks is not accused of sexual harassment, then I'm okay. I did see an article that said that he was accused of being a nice guy, which was pretty funny. It was like one of those Onion-type articles, but no, yeah, I didn't hear about that. That is disappointing to hear, though. Their second question, actual wrestling-related questions. Best and worst of NXT TakeOver War Games and Survivor Series. Who are the MVPs and the LVPs, or whatever the opposite of MVP is? Okay, so best and worst of TakeOver and Survivor Series. TakeOver, there really was no bad. Like maybe Sullivan and Ono for some people, but I thought that was exactly what it needed to be. A 5-minute dominant showcase for Sullivan. And Ono got in some great offense in there. So I didn't really think that was bad at all. And everything else was either pretty good, great, or amazing. So there really was no bad of TakeOver. And the best, again, if I had to narrow it down, I would say Black and Dream was the match of the night. Then War Games, McIntyre and Almas. And then the women's match was pretty good too. So I would put that closer to the bottom, but it was also pretty good. So that was the best of TakeOver. With Survivor Series, worst, Miz and Corbin, like I said, was not as bad as I thought it was going to, but it was definitely forgettable. The women's match was a fucking train wreck at certain points. I'm glad Asuka was the sole survivor. That was the key. But a lot of that match was not good. Especially Alicia Fox and Naomi. Good God, how is Alicia Fox still employed? She is terrible. The best, again, Styles Lesnar. The main event I would not put near the best category. I thought it was a solid main event, a good match, but it was not as good as it could have been, considering who was involved. But Styles Lesnar, Shield New Day, and the Usos and Sheamus and Cesaro. That was a good match too. MVPs and LVPs. MVPs from TakeOver. Definitely Alistair, Velveteen Dream. He had a star-making performance on Saturday. Black was awesome as usual, but Dream really had a breakthrough performance on that show. Sullivan looked good. Who else? Royce had a good showing, got a great reaction, like I said. In the War game, Almas looked fucking better than always. If he's motivated, the guy is on point. He is a star. So he's another MVP. And Killian Dane, I thought, really stood out in a major way in that match. And Alexander Wolf, too. 2/3 of sanity. Everyone held their own, but those two are the MVPs of that match. LVPs, again, no one really from TakeOver. From Survivor Series, both the Shield and New Day were MVPs. AJ Styles above anyone else, absolutely. Asuka as well. LVPs, Naomi and Alicia Fox, I'm sorry, were just fucking terrible. Tamina sucks too, but she was shockingly not as bad as those two on that show. I don't know what the fuck happened there. Bliss and Charlotte was fine, not an MVP or an LVP. In the main event, Rune and Nakamura did not really do much at all. But the MVP of that match, I would say, was Braun Strowman. I thought he was great in that match. He wasn't really in it too long, but he was a sole survivor, and he was the last man standing, so I would say he's an MVP. And beyond that, not many other LVPs from that match. Those would be the best and worst, and MVPs and LVPs, as you said, from TakeOver and Survivor Series. And their third question, what do you consider to be the most annoying cliches in pro wrestling? For me, the contract signings. I mean, we see way too much of fucking contract signings in wrestling. Absolutely way too many contract signings. And NXT does them better than almost anyone, but it always ends in a brawl, and it's always the same shit more often than not. So absolutely contract signings are just the biggest, most tired trope in all of wrestling. People interrupting each other. And not just someone cutting a promo and then someone interrupting them, but like what we saw on Raw this week with Bliss and James and Bayley and Banks and Fox, and everyone just takes turns interrupting the other. And the worst part was that the material they were given to work with was terrible. None of those promos were any good at all. Those promos were completely forgettable. Just total trash. So I hate when people do that, the whole formulaic thing of, here comes one person, then the other, and then the other. It's like when we get multi-person matches, like Money in the Bank and stuff, you will see that every fucking year. One guy after another guy to build up the match, and it just does not do anyone any favors. There's not enough time given to each person to spotlight them on the mic, and as a result, it's not good. And finally, people getting distracted by entrance music. I mean, I know it's a wrestling thing, LOL wrestling, but it's like, holy shit, we see that way too often. That and the whole fucking distraction roll-up, which I know has been the Solid Monsters talked about that quite a bit and many other people, but that is just, again, a terrible trope. They need to fucking stop doing that shit. They've gotten better at it in recent years, but I hate that. When someone's music hits, I can't pay attention. Like, with the Shield and Sheamus and Cesaro, they were distracted for like fucking 20 minutes before Sheamus won the match for their team and they won back the belts. Like, that was dumb. That was stupid. I'm sorry. I thought that was really dumb. But yeah, we see that way too often too. So those would be my most annoying cliches in wrestling, for me anyway. Final question from Mr. Marceau at RJ_Marceau on the Twitter machine. Besides Ruby Riott, did any of the other NXT women deserve to be called up? Ruby is the only one with an established identity and can work for sure. So like I said earlier, yeah, Ruby is great. Any of the NXT women, like with Mandy and Sonya. So here's the thing. We don't know if they can go. Sonya's gotten a lot better. She's not all that great yet, but she's getting there. Mandy Rose, I have no idea, because we never really saw her in NXT TV at all. At least this year, anyway. A few times in 2015, sometimes in 2016, but beyond that, not really at all. So, other than that, though, like I said, they'll learn from Paige, and there was no room for them in NXT. They were not going to be pushed on that brand. So they had to be brought up, because I think this is a great role for them. They have a cool stable going on Raw, and Sonya Deville was not going to become NXT Women's Champion, especially if they bring in Rousey and Baszler, and they won't go to NXT, but you know what I'm saying. I don't think it was going to work for Sonya in NXT. So just bypassing the title and just going straight to the main roster, I think works. The issue with the other women, Ruby could have been an NXT Women's Champion. She just has not been there for that long, so she could have been at some point. I'm glad she's on the main roster. I think she's a better babyface than a heel, at least from what I've seen so far. But I'm not complaining. The other two, again, we know Logan. I know Logan can go. I've seen her go before. She's a really good wrestler. We just know nothing about her. That's the thing with Riot. Like you said, she has an established identity. Sarah Logan does not. I think she'll be good, but from what I've seen, she's a natural babyface. So turning her heel kind of kills some momentum there. And Liv Morgan just fucking sucks. She's a natural babyface too, like I said earlier, but good God, she is terrible. I know for sure that she can't work, unlike Ruby. So, again, like I said earlier, the SmackDown call-ups I'm a bit more skeptical of. Ruby, I'm kind of good with, because I know she can go. I think that would have been a better role for the iconic duo, but I don't know. The other two women, Logan, I'm more sold on than Morgan, because I know Morgan is just terrible. Logan I know can go, but we know nothing about her. Maybe we find that out next week, but the main roster does not do a good job of introducing certain characters to us. That's why the Divas Revolution was such a fucking mess, because they called up so many women at once, and they all got over in time. Banks, Becky, and Charlotte went on to great success on the main roster, but not because of anything WWE did in the beginning. We knew nothing about any of those women. Charlotte died a death as a babyface. Banks was a complete afterthought in 2015, and Becky didn't really break out of her shell until 2016. So, again, I'm not really sure any of these women will be all that successful on the main roster from the get-go, at least the SmackDown women. With Paige and those girls, doesn't really matter if they can work. They got a good look. They got good chemistry. But the SmackDown women, they don't have that chemistry. Morgan is terrible. DeVille and Rose, I know, are at least decent or passable. Morgan, I know, is fucking awful. So we'll see about that. But I am interested. At least, again, like I said earlier, if nothing else, we have fresh new blood. Fresh faces and new blood in the women's divisions for Raw and SmackDown. That was long overdue, especially for SmackDown. I could only see Charlotte and Natalya and Naomi and Natalya so many times. I'm sorry. And Tamina and all those other women, they gotta go. Tamina's fucking terrible. Hopefully with the new women on SmackDown, we see less of Tamina and more of them. But time will tell, like I said earlier. And that does it, guys, for episode 208 of Hashtag AskGSM here today. I am Graham GSM Matthews, as always, answering your awesome questions from Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. If you want to send in a question to the show for next week's installment, be sure to tweet me on the Twitter machine with all of your 280 characters at WrestleRant with the hashtag AskGSM. Find me on Facebook at facebook.com/Graham.gsm.Matthews. Leave a comment on the post I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not on the wall itself. And last but certainly not least, drop a question in the comment section down below on this very video. I'll include your question in next week's edition. So, all that being said, folks, be sure to like the video, drop a comment, like I said, right there, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more daily content. Hope you guys have an awesome Thanksgiving, and I'll catch your ass down the road.